Hi, I'm Brad, and some of you might have forgotten that, and I wouldn't blame you. But anyway, I'm on the second channel because this has been a crazy week, and I just want to get my thoughts. This isn't really a review of a bunch of things. This is just me rambling about stuff because this week, two of the biggest consumer hardware manufacturers in the world both decided to either release a brand new platform, a new headset, um, or at least revise it with also a lot of change. And I'm of course talking about the Samsung Galaxy XR, which is basically Google and Samsung's answer to this, the Vision Pro. But this is the what they call the M5 model. They upgraded the chip and not much else in the hardware sort of thing. They also have a new strap, which I don't have on here right now. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Good strap, first of all. But yeah, anyway. So let's talk about this. Just get right into it. I am someone, if you have not figured out from my Twitter or any other social media that I do still actually post on regularly, mostly Twitter, I fell in love with this thing. It was like one of those aspects for me that a piece of hardware came out at just the perfect time and solved a lot of the things I was looking for right now in a headset. Because, if you've been following me for a while, I've been talking about, at least on the Steam VR side, the potential of overlays and the idea of just being able to have all these persistent windows between AR and VR. And I've been talking about this for so long, and people would start to make fun of me because I was just kind of the crazy guy talking about overlays. And then all of a sudden, Apple came out and they said, hey, we're going to take that concept and focus our entire AR VR platform around it. And we're also going to put OLED micro displays in our headset. So I'm sitting here like, well, crap. I'm not someone who is really particularly fond of Apple and the way they do things. I've never been like an Apple fanboy or anything. But I got the headset, and it gave me sort of a curse inside my brain, a little tumor that made me realize this is what I've been wanting for a while. And I've just been loving it. I basically have done the crazy thing where, and this is not something I expect people to do, but because I'm so passionate about it and I like to be on the ground floor of what I believe is truly the emerging technology to replace some other pieces of technology sometime down the line, I got rid of all my flat displays in February last year, and I decided, hey, I want to use this full time to do all my computing, whether it's still connected to a PC or do everything standalone on board. I want to do that and see all the difficulties, all the troubles I run into, and all the benefits of doing that. And I'm still doing that, by the way. I still have not gone back full-time to a monitor. Even when I'm gaming, I'll always be playing, like for example, I love playing the game Deadlock. It's not really released yet, but it's the new Valve game, and I freaking love that game. It basically replaced Dota 2, which was my previous obsession of gaming. And I just play that stream to Moonlight, to the headset, and it's just a really good experience for me. And I'm getting a little older. I'm not super competitive anymore, so that little bit of latency that's added to the wireless experience doesn't bother me. It's worth to have just that malleable, whatever aspect ratio screen in like the full color, and I just like it. It's just something I love to do. Anyway, I'm not going to harp too much on why I love this thing. I just want you to understand I love the concept of spatial computing. I love dailying headsets in this way. And Android, Google, they're out officially. They are out. They're starting with this $1,800 headset, the Samsung Galaxy XR. And it's good. Actually, it's very good. I wanted to talk about right away the comfort of it, because I think when people ask me and they see me very positive about this new Samsung headset, they're like, Brad, is it going to replace your Apple one as your main unit for your daily use in spatial computing or PC VR or whatever? And for me, no, because even at the beginning, it is a hard strap, like completely hard lined in. You cannot remove it. You can change the spacers, like this little plastic part comes here, and there's actually like multiple sizes of spacers to get you farther away and closer to the lens of the headset. But the truth is, you want to be as close as possible to these lenses, because if you're even slightly far away, there's a brightness fall off on the edges there that are very obvious when your eyes like kind of match together those two views. So if you're someone who's just trying to, I don't know, wear glasses while you're doing the spacers, I actually don't recommend that. There's a clear reason why they're trying to get you to buy the prescription inserts, because you just want to be as close as possible. Now, when you are close as possible, you are wanting the headset to be kind of tight. And for me, I had to always kind of lift the back up of the headset to get that positive view. And I am someone, if you go back to my Quest Pro review from a few years ago, I harped on the comfort of that headset dramatically. I am someone, I know I'm wearing a hat right now, but I have it literally on the loosest as I can get wearing this hat, because even when I go out in public with just a hat, if it's somewhat tight and it's like applying that pressure on the front of my forehead, I just start to get headaches quite a bit. And with these kind of styles of headsets, it happens faster for me because obviously they're a lot heavier than a hat. So I have a very sensitive forehead. And there are other people I know who are like this, and I know other people who are not like this. So it's a problem. Basically, I always start with this. If you do not have an issue, maybe you're a Quest Pro buyer or someone that like the Bobo head straps for the Quest 3, you're probably not going to have an issue as much on here. But again, you cannot remove it. You cannot change much about it. There will probably be some aftermarket options where I'm starting to see people find cushions that fit quite well and more comfortable than what they have here, which is a little bit more stiff on the forehead. But for me, that's already a no-go of like me daily driving this thing. But just wanted to say that before I go on the other thing. Visuals, going back to visuals a bit, the displays in this thing are actually higher resolution than these. They're like full-on 3840 by 3552 per eye. Now they're running at 72 Hertz, but I actually don't really have a problem with that when I'm using the actual operating system. Refresh rate is not the problem for me. And looking at photos and videos, it's very beautiful. Like it's a great experience, and even the color reproduction is quite good. It's a little bit higher in the DCI-P3 scale than this one actually. But and the FOV again, I had to assume that you're getting as close to the lens. I did some FOV measurements of this, and the FOV on this is actually quite good as well if you can get super close. It's actually quite similar to the Index FOV. I got around 110 horizontal by 106 vertical. So this one for me actually does get to, the Vision Pro actually does get to 110 horizontal for me, because again, I can also get quite close to the lenses. But the vertical FOV, it falls off quite a bit compared to the horizontal FOV, where this one's much more rounded, albeit there are some chromatic aberration at the edges, and more specifically on the very far edges when you're that close, you'll get a lot of that geometric distortion where you move your head and stuff, and you just see the world kind of just doing this like, sort of like this hill-valley warping sort of thing. But all in all, I actually cannot complain about, if you're like using this for PC VR, and you're able to use virtual desktop, talk a little bit more about that later, the actual visuals are quite good, like very well done for that kind of media, photo, video, stream PC VR. Very beautiful image, much better than Quest Pro for me already in that sort of regard. Now I want to talk about OS quickly. Vision OS, they've had more time to cook, right? This came out February last year, and they've already launched 2 major software updates, operating systems for this, and it's to the point now where I feel like the Vision OS is so far ahead in terms of the software quality and not just the polish, but the feature set, that it just makes me love it more and more every time it gets around June. They're showing off all the new things for WWDC. I'm opting into all the developer betas, and like really the like snapping everything to your play spaces, and they're persistent whether you're taking it off or rebooting it. That feature alone is just wonderful. There's nothing like that yet in terms of the anchoring system for Android XR, but it's still a lot of the things that they're doing in here from day one. It's very similar to what this is doing now, day one. So it's more fair to compare the OS of this day one to compare with the OS day one of this one, because it's a lot more closer of an experience right now in sort of that regard. But I will say the sort of anchoring of like placing a window somewhere and you're walking around your room, I feel the Android XR or the hardware is a lot more difficult in trying to keep that pinned down in the same place, especially on the sort of XY axis sort of thing. You walk around it, you'll see the window like either morph into the wall or go back and forth. It's not as stable with all your windows as this one. Now, I think that's something that they can improve over time. It's just a computer vision sort of thing. But right now, it's fine. It's not terrible, but it's far away from the quality in that aspect than here. So, and they're not even, I don't even think they are even doing anything with the pinning to walls or anything like that. Even though they do have a IR projector that is actually calculating the depth of all your environment, because the actual pass-through in this headset, it's very depth correct. And in fact, you don't even notice them creating that depth map and reprojecting that image to give you a better perception of your world. It's very similar actually to Vision Pro. They both do it very well. In terms of like the sharpness, I feel like the Samsung, the sharpness is good. I feel like they're actually over tweaking the sharpness to where there's a little bit too much ISO noise. But it's still like very good. I wish they would turn down the saturation a bit. I feel like it's oversaturated compared to this one, where this one feels more like natural to the colors, and this one just wants to make my skin a little bit like Trump orange in sort of a way. But it's still good. What's not good is if you're using this in low light for the pass-through. Now, I got some snarky comments on Twitter when I mentioned that the noise and like it's like turning up the shadows on like an image editing program. When you're in low light, like in your bedroom with only a ceiling light, it really feels quite dark and very poor quality. And I know cameras normally do that, but I feel like there's some sort of color tweaking that they're just doing on the processor on the Samsung Galaxy XR that makes just the visuals in your room in a very low light scenario just needs to be improved. Where this one, Vision Pro, I feel like they're constantly maybe like defocusing the camera pass-through image to kind of make it seem like it's more sharp. And even when it's like a low light scenario, you never notice like too much like the noise from the image unless you're seeing like really dark areas of shadows in your low lit room or something like that. I feel like this one handles low light quite better than this one, but still, again, I do use the pass-through all the time when I am interacting with the operating system on Android XR. It's just a far better experience than their environments, which are... There's one environment I think I like on the Galaxy XR. It's the first one they put you into because there's like some reflections on this sort of desert water field, this mirage image. But so I feel like, just to kind of summarize a lot of the complaints I'm going to have about between these two platforms, I feel like Vision OS, there's a lot of things you can't do because the software is locked down and limited. And with this, I feel it's the complete opposite. I can literally download Discord from the Google Play Store, the iPad app. I can resize it to any aspect ratio that I want, which is awesome. With the Vision OS, you can only really do the 2 portrait or landscape modes from the iPad app ported over to this, which is not as good as I would like compared to this. And I was able to ask my friend who is on their PC, hey, can you send me the Steam Link APK file that is in the driver resources of Steam VR so I can try to load that APK on the headset and install it. And this is without developer mode or anything. They were able to send me that file through Discord. I was able to download it. Of course, it gave me all the warnings that this is an unverified file, everything. But I was able to download that file and then install it. I didn't have to jailbreak it. I didn't have to unlock it. I didn't have to activate developer mode. I was just able to download APKs from wherever source I want and install those apps. And there's a lot of those feelings in this operating system that I think if you're used to Android, that's always the thing that they've kind of excelled at. Surprisingly as well, I was able to unlock the bootloader on this headset. Now, I don't know if that was a mistake. I'm always kind of scared to showcase this as a feature because that's one of those things where there's been headsets in the past, like the Play for Dream. As far as I know, the Play for Dream also did that where they released it and they had an unlocked bootloader, but later on, someone pointed it out and they realized, ooh, we didn't mean to do that, and then they locked it down. So right now, with the first operating system and first wave, you can unlock the bootloader at the expense of not being able to download some apps from the Play Store. Seems to be the only problem that you run into if you actually do unlock the bootloader for whatever reason you like to. I couldn't download Virtual Desktop as an example. I tried restarting it over and over, doing a bunch of things, but I had to relock the bootloader to install Virtual Desktop, download it on the headset and use it. But it's kind of amazing to think about. Maybe there's a day where there is a Steam OS that is built for XR, Qualcomm chips, and I don't know, maybe if you have an unlocked bootloader, a micro LED headset over here, you can one day try to install the XR version of SteamOS on this headset. The possibility is there, right? So that's kind of amazing that I was able to find that and do that and show that off. Now let's talk about just kind of the going back to the windowing system. A few more things I want to talk about, and that is kind of the text quality. Okay, so the first thing I said was I wouldn't be able to replace this with this because of the actual comfort for me. But there's another thing I would like to kind of point out, and that is the text rendering. Now, this thing is using the Snapdragon XR 2 Plus Gen 2. It's actually almost a 2-year-old chip at this point, based on like almost around a 4-year-old SoC, if I'm remembering correctly, of a mobile chip. And when I was saying earlier that this thing's limited to hardware more than the software, that's basically true. And I feel like the chip is holding back everything that these displays can actually do on a OS level. And even for PC VR, before I was using Virtual Desktop, which Virtual Desktop had a very clean image, I didn't have any issues with it. But before that, I was using AndroidXR because I wanted to use the brand new OpenXR extension that Google is using for AndroidXR, which gives you all the Vizemes of eye and face tracking, and you can send that to VR chat and have full eye, face tracking, tongue tracking, everything. Very good. Virtual Desktop is going to update their software to get that new extension. They already have basic face and eye tracking from like months ago of the extension, but they're going to update it with all the new stuff. But anyway, when I was using AndroidXR, I was immediately noticing that once I got past 150 megabytes per second of the bit rate to send to the headset, anything past that, it was struggling heavily. Now this was HEVC. This does support AV1. And when I use Virtual Desktop, AV1 seemed to perform much better than HEVC. And I was like, oh, the decoder in this thing must be struggling quite a bit with that, with the high resolution displays and trying to take this semi-high bitrate scenario going on here. And then I even saw that there's a built-in game link, they call it, where Samsung basically forked ALVR and have an official one on the Microsoft App Store, where you can just kind of have it's basically Oculus Link, but for this headset. It's the built-in sort of scenario, and even that program, they won't let you go past 150 megabytes per second of a bit rate. So there's clear indication there that ideally the decoder is kind of just not able to keep up in some scenarios unless you have a very, very carefully tweaked thing. But when you have it tweaked or using Virtual Desktop, even on the Monster setting, which I was using, it was very stable, very smooth, and very gorgeous image with all the features that you would want of this hardware working through PC VR, including hand tracking. I was able to do all this stuff in hand tracking in VR chat because this thing does sell controllers. They're $250 MSRP. I got quite lucky because I got them for 75 bucks when I bought it with the headset, and little did I know that these controllers are basically unobtainium. They're not that fancy or anything. They're basically Touch Plus controllers. No issues with tracking. They have a little bit of haptic motors. They have everything you would kind of expect from a very simple Quest-like controller. It does everything you want in the OS and everything. But these are sold out until January. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I have them. They work natively. You want them if you want to do actual gaming with the device, of course, because even the games they have on there, they're more so designed, I think, for controllers than anything, and they work quite well with PC VR. Not much to say about them, except they clearly made a huge mistake in just not making that many of these for sure. Now, going back to actual OS, the text quality thing I was kind of hinting at earlier is, again, even though the displays are much higher resolution, this thing, you can just tell that the texture resolution, the actual visuals of the text, the pixels per degree, at least on the rendering level, is much lower here than what you get standalone on even, not even just the M5 unit, but even the M2 just looks way more sharper than what you see on the standalone level. And another thing I noticed while they're like especially scared of this sort of render resolution is you can make windows quite small in this, which you want to do because you're limited by field of view in headsets all the time. So you want to make your windows, if you have the vision, if you have the text size very small, you can make the windows smaller too. And the smallest text size on this is like medium window size on this. So my feeling is that they are scared to allow the user to get smaller, because that's when you'll really especially see like the render resolution aliasing the text more. Whereas right now it's just like acceptable. But like you put a Discord window and you can try to get to the smallest size that's comfortable, and it'll just be quite large in your view compared to this. So that's some things where I just feel, again, everything that's going on with this headset just feels limited by the chip. And it's funny because that's kind of like the Quest Pro thing, but I still feel that this headset's way better of what the Quest Pro should have been compared to what the Quest Pro actually was. Like, all the feature sets are here day one. It's very open. It's a really good experience if you can get past the comfort, but also suffers from the same problems like of the actual design from Quest Pro. But at least they put everything on, a lot of the weight on the battery, because this headset actually does feel pretty light and just in general. And yeah, I just feel as well, I keep bringing up the chip because there's such a difference in terms of not even just the render resolution, but the things you can do on a rendering level are kind of important too, because this thing has Gemini, and Gemini is pretty cool. It's not like something I use all the time. In fact, I kind of prefer using Bixby for a lot of the aspects of this hardware, because with Bixby, I can tell it to be like, hey, open this app, or turn this setting off, or blah, blah, blah. And it'll do that and they'll go away. And that's kind of how I like interacting with my computing technologies. I just wanted to do one thing and then just go away. But when I do Gemini to do the same stuff, wow, it just wants to start a conversation with me. And I just don't care. Like, it basically opens up this full-time listening mode until you actually say, hey Google, go away, or stop listening, or whatever. And it's just really annoying when you're just trying to do something quick. And I know the idea is like, hey, it's going to walk you through a game at every step of the way and everything. But for me, I found it also to be like inaccurate in some of its answers, just like a lot of LLMs are. And the only time I actually find Gemini useful is the circle to search feature, where you hold down your hand and you circle something, and it'll basically, either if it's like something that it knows it's not your language, it'll translate it, but also show all images online on Google, a similar, open a little window. And it's not always listening. It's just doing the one and done thing of what you needed to do. And that works phenomenally. I think that is like probably the killer AI app on this headset. And yeah, they showed it off a little bit, but I just feel like the coolest thing was I did it in Half-Life Alyx, where there was a poster of some Bulgarian text, and I just, even while I was streaming PC VR, the performance was a little bit struggly a little bit because I was already overloading chip, but still, it will circle it. It translated to English saying do not touch, because it was an electrical power grid box, and that was just a magical little moment where it's like, okay, I see where that's pretty useful. But everything's done on the cloud on here. I even believe that Adobe released an app where it's like a video editing app, and because there's just not much like horsepower on here, you'll notice that this is just limited on what you can do on device. If you're not connected to the internet, that will just be a limiting factor if that bothers you, or you just don't want to send all your data to the clouds. There's not much horsepower to do much else like extensive compared to just running the HMD. Whereas I feel like Apple, I mean, we know Apple chips are just kind of just ridiculous, right? Especially the M5. They have the feature where you can convert photos into full 60OF scenes. They call it spatial scenes, and those are probably the most amazing feature I've seen in AR VR in a while. It's very different from 3D photos, but it just looks like you're actually looking into a window. And whether it's that or creating your persona, all that's done locally on device with the extremely powerful chip inside. And it's just like kind of amazing, because you just know that's going to scale quite well over time, where Apple's just always going to be ahead. They did the very smart thing of doing the Crow processor with their baseline chip, so they don't have to wait to build a XR Focus SoC, whereas that's probably the biggest problem I worry about for the hardware side of the Google Android stuff, is they have to wait or just dump a ton of money right now, at least, on Qualcomm tweaking one of their older mobile SoCs to have the XR capabilities that you'd want. I'm hoping one day that they will also kind of like maybe Google will do their own ASIC processor that will be designed to work with one of the maybe Qualcomm laptop series chips or something like that where they can kind of do a lot of the same things on here because I know it's expensive and adds more to cost, but I feel like with XR, when you upgrade a chip from M2 to M5, like in this, the differences are so much dramatically apparent compared to when you upgrade M2 to M5 on the iPad Pro, for example. Because these things are just rendering so many insane pixels, not pickles, 4K per eye at 120 hertz. Like, you will need some extreme horsepower to make that look really good, even with the foveated rendering. Which, by the way, the foveated rendering on this is good. It's very good. The eye tracking has 2 cameras per eye, just like this, and it keeps up very well. And I was very happy to see that you can literally get rid of all the like the raycast hand tracking stuff, just like on Quest on here, and purely use eye, gaze, and pinch, and it works quite accurately on this, by the way. It's very good. It's not, I would say, as accurate as this, but it's still very good. The biggest problem with using it that way is I think all the little hover where you're looking at buttons and they light up, there's a lot of mismatch there across the OS that I think that's a software thing, so Google can fix it, and I think that should be one of the first things that they should fix. But all in all, I find the eye tracking and the accuracy and everything just quite great on this headset, so I'm very glad to see that focus on. And also personas, there's a Samsung avatar right now on the device. They're basically similar to the Meta avatars. They're actually god-awful. They don't look good. I would never use them for a call meeting. And I also noticed that the eye and face tracking Visemes for the customized avatar you do for Samsung, they're not very good. Like if you open your mouth wide, the avatars open their mouth like a very tiny bit. Whereas this, I use personas quite a lot for my work meetings, everything. I feel comfortable enough to they've gotten to the quality where I accept that. So yeah, my camera's running out of battery, but I just wanted to kind of give my final thoughts. Oh, one more thing about the 120 hertz. It's something I didn't know. This runs at 120 hertz. It's very noticeable when it's running at 120 hertz. It's beautiful. There's slightly higher render resolution. I feel like that's notable here compared to M2 model. But the only reason I want to compare this to the M2 model is this headset is $1,800. The M2 model on the eBay aftermarket is actually around the same price as this. So basically, I'm going to be traveling to East Asia for the next 2 months, and that is when I really will be able to show the importance of this use case where I basically use this as my mobile laptop because I won't have a desk. I'll be going from hotel to hotel, factory, and some other things basically. And I won't have just a standard desk where I'm not going to bring giant monitors everywhere when I travel, right? I'll bring this, I'll bring a keyboard and mouse and do whatever. So when I do that text rendering quality, that rendering on device, all of that will be quite important. So I just want to hit home that there is a difference of price between the new model and this, but even with the M2 model and this, it's interesting. It's interesting. I just want to say I think Google did a great job with their first headset here. I think the Google OS will probably get stronger if they keep at it. I just think in general, I'm very happy. I'm liking Christmas right now because the entire industry decided that overlays and micro OLED is just the thing to be in right now. We're not, I mean, I'm happy for people who like to use the Quest for gaming because I think if you're really just standalone gamer, these headsets are doing nothing for you. You're on Quest and that's fine, but for like the stuff I'm really into, it just seems like all the major players right now, even Meta from my understanding, who are working on something more along these lines again, I don't care who wins at this point. I'm just having a really good time and it's awesome. So yeah, that's it. I just want to give my sporadic thoughts. Camera has 1 minute battery left, but very good headsets. I don't know. It's great to be me right now. It's great to be an XR right now. All right, goodbye.